Hello, welcome to the Price Academy, bite-sized history videos. This video is introducing Harald Hardrada. Harald was born in 1015 in Norway, and it is claimed he descended from the legendary first king of that country, Harald Fairhair. At the time of his birth, Norway was part of the Danish Empire of King Canute, which included England and parts of Sweden. The Norwegians were not happy with foreign rule, and Harald's older brother Olaf was exiled for his dissent in 1028. When the 15-year-old Harald heard of his planned return 2 years later, he gathered a force of 600 men to meet his brother, and together they raised an army to take on Canute's loyalists. At the Battle of Sticklesdid, Olaf was killed and Harald badly wounded and forced to flee, though not before showing considerable fighting skill. After recovering in a remote cottage in the far northeast, he escaped into Sweden, and after a year of travelling found himself in Kievan Rus, the ancestor state to modern Russia. Grand Prince Yaroslav the Wise welcomed the newcomer and gave him a detachment of men to command near modern-day St. Petersburg. Over the following years, Harald saw his stardom rise after fighting the Poles, Romans and fierce steppe nomads who always threatened from the east. By 1034, Harald had a personal following of 500 men and took them to the capital of the Roman Empire, Constantinople. At age 20 or 21, he became the overall leader of the Vangarian Guard, who were the bodyguards for the Roman emperors. Harald, despite his status as a bodyguard, still saw action all across the empire, and Harald was credited with the capture of 80 Arab fortresses in present-day Iraq. After peace was won with the Arabs, he joined an expedition to retake Sicily, which had recently been conquered and declared to be ruled by an Islamic leader. There, fighting along the mercenaries from Normandy, he further cemented his reputation and earned himself the nickname Bulgar Burner during his service in the south of Italy and Bulgaria. When Michael IV died, Harald's fortune sank, and he found himself imprisoned, but not for long, as he managed to escape with the help of some of the Varangians. He decided to exact a personal revenge on the new emperor Michael V by blinding him, as it was him who had imprisoned him in the first place. He also married Yaroslav's daughter back in the Rus, and decided in 1042 to return home when Canute died. By the time he returned home in 1046, Magnus the Good, the son of Olaf, ruled over Norway and Denmark. Harald waited in exile in Sweden with his nephew Sweyn until negotiations were made and an agreement met to co-rule Norway with Magnus. For 1 year, luck played into Harald's hands as Magnus died childless. Sweyn became the king of Denmark and Harald king of Norway. Harald earned himself the nickname Hardrada, or Hard Ruler, during these years, was at constant war with Sweyn over the throne of Denmark between 1048 and 1064. After 1064, it became clear Denmark would never belong to Harald, and he turned his attention across the North Sea to England. After the death of Canute, England had been ruled by Edward the Confessor, but he died in January 1066 childless. Harold Godwinson succeeded him to the throne. Harald was angry and allied himself with Harold's brother, Tostig, who helped convince him he ought to seize power. By September 1066, swift preparations for an invasion were complete and he set sail. On the 18th of September, after a journey via the Orkney and Shetland Islands, the Norwegian fleet of 10 to 15,000 men landed on English shores. King Harold, meanwhile, was waiting with the English army on the south coast for William, Duke of Normandy. The Norwegian army first met with resistance from the town of Scarborough, which refused to surrender, so Hardrada burned it down, causing several northern towns to pledge their allegiance. Harold's strongest northern lords, Morcar of Northumbria and Edwin of Mercia, raised armies and met the Norwegians at Fulford, near York, where they were defeated on the 20th of September. York, the old Viking capital, fell, leaving the north conquered, but Hardrada made a mistake by withdrawing from York and waiting for the hostages and ransom he had been promised. This gave Harold Godwinson his chance. On the 25th of September, Hardrada and his men went to receive York's leading citizens and were not wearing any armour. Suddenly, at Stamford Bridge, Harold's army fell on them, having marched at lightning pace to surprise Hardrada's forces. Fighting without armour, Hardrada was killed with an arrow to his throat, alongside Tostig. The Viking army got back on their ships and sailed home. Harold and his men had to hear the news that William had landed in the south unopposed. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, to like it and subscribe to the channel, or follow me at Twitter or at Facebook at TanyaRelics38.